Chapter 1: The Whispers of Detroit. The city of Detroit hummed with a restless energy that matched Kendra Mitchell's internal turbulence. At 25, she moved through the worn streets like a ghost, her dark eyes scanning the urban landscape with a mixture of determination and quiet frustration. By day, she worked as a community center coordinator, helping at-risk youth navigate the complex challenges of inner-city life. By night, she burned with an inexplicable sense that she was meant for something more. Kendra's small apartment was a testament to her practical nature. Functional, sparse, but carefully organized. Photographs of the kids she worked with lined one wall, each image a reminder of the potential she saw in their eyes. She believed in second chances, in the power of hope against seemingly insurmountable odds. That morning had been particularly challenging. A teenage boy named Marcus had nearly been pulled into a local gang's orbit, and Kendra had spent hours talking him down, showing him alternative paths. Her colleagues often remarked on her uncanny ability to connect with people, to see beyond their immediate circumstances. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across Detroit's weathered streets, something felt different. The air seemed to vibrate with an unusual intensity. Kendra stood by her apartment window, her reflection barely visible against the darkening skyline. Strange electrical currents seemed to dance at the edges of her perception, subtle distortions that most would dismiss as tricks of light and shadow. She had always been different, not in any dramatically obvious way, but in the way she perceived the world. Where others saw limitations, she saw possibilities. Where others felt defeated, she felt a burning desire to change things. These qualities had made her exceptional at her work, but they also left her feeling perpetually out of place. That night, the city seemed to whisper, not with words exactly, but with a vibration that resonated deep within her bones. Electronics in her apartment began to flicker, the lights pulsing, her phone's screen displaying fragmented, incomprehensible patterns. Kendra felt no fear, only a strange sense of anticipation. A metallic scent filled the air, sharp and clean, like something between ozone and refined steel. The walls of her apartment seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with an almost organic rhythm. And then, at the precise moment when the city's heartbeat seemed to synchronize with her own, Kendra felt a pull. Not a physical pull, but something deeper. A calling that transcended physical space. A summons from somewhere beyond her understanding. Her body tingled with an energy that felt both alien and strangely familiar. The photographs on her wall began to flutter, as if caught in an invisible wind. "Something's coming," she whispered to herself, a statement of fact rather than a question. In the distance, a storm was brewing, but not a natural storm. The clouds gathered with mathematical precision, forming patterns that defied meteorological logic. Lightning flickered, but it was silver blue, unlike anything Kendra had ever seen. The prophecy was stirring. Though she didn't know its details, something deep within her resonated with its promise. The Metal Queen, a title that meant nothing to her now, but would soon define everything. As the first tendrils of an extraordinary transformation began to weave around her, Kendra Mitchell stood perfectly still. Not with fear, but with a warrior's calm. Whatever was coming, she was ready. The city of Detroit faded around her, its concrete and steel dissolving into a shimmering matrix of light and potential. And in that moment of transition, Kendra understood that her life of helping others was merely preparation for a journey beyond anything she could have imagined. The prophecy was about to begin. Chapter 2: The Transformation. The world dissolved around Kendra in a kaleidoscope of fractured light and screaming energy. One moment, she had been standing in her Detroit apartment, the strange metallic scent filling her nostrils, and the next, she was suspended in a void that defied comprehension. Waves of electric blue and violent purple churned around her, pulling and stretching her body like malleable clay. When sensation returned, Kendra found herself lying on a surface that felt neither solid nor liquid. The air tasted strange, metallic, charged, alive. Her body felt different, heavy, transformed. She slowly raised her hand, and the movement felt simultaneously familiar and alien. Where her left arm should have been was a gleaming metallic appendage, intricate panels of silver and gunmetal gray seamlessly integrated with her skin. Delicate circuits pulsed beneath translucent sections, revealing a complex inner mechanism that seemed to breathe with its own rhythm. "Your transformation is complete," a gravelly voice announced. Kendra turned, her new robotic eyes adjusting automatically. The world shifted into hyper-detailed focus. She could see microscopic dust particles dancing in the air, could perceive wavelengths beyond normal human perception. The speaker was unlike anything she had ever seen. Tall and impossibly thin, with skin that seemed to shift between solid and translucent, the being watched her with eyes that contained entire galaxies. This was the Indignity, her assigned guide on this impossible journey. "Who are you?" Kendra's voice sounded different, resonant, with an electronic undertone that vibrated with power. "I am the Indignity," the being responded, "guardian of the prophecy and your guide on Nem Me. You are the Metal Queen, the one destined to unite our fractured world." The environment around them was equally strange. Crystalline structures rose like impossible sculptures, their surfaces reflecting light in ways that defied natural physics. The landscape seemed alive, breathing, transforming with each passing moment. The Indignity explained the prophecy, how Nem Me had been locked in a devastating civil war for generations. 4 powerful gods, the Artans, had torn the planet apart with their competing visions and incredible powers. Varric could summon storms that could obliterate entire civilizations. Nexus could manipulate reality itself. Kral could raise entire mountain ranges with a thought, and Mara could shatter minds with her psychic abilities. "But you," the Indignity said, placing a translucent hand on Kendra's metallic arm, "you are different. Your human determination, combined with our technological augmentation, makes you unique." Kendra felt the weight of her new identity settling into her consciousness. The metallic arm wasn't just a prosthetic, it was an extension of her being. Embedded sensors allowed her to perceive electromagnetic fields, analyze molecular structures, and interface directly with Nem Me's complex technological systems. Her robotic eyes, similarly, were more than replacements. They were windows into a multidimensional understanding of reality. She could see heat signatures, electromagnetic radiation, quantum fluctuations, a complete sensory experience beyond human limitation. "Why me?" she asked, her voice a blend of human vulnerability and machine precision. The Indignity's galaxy-filled eyes seemed to look through her. "Because you see potential where others see limitation. Because you believe in second chances. Because your spirit cannot be broken." As if to demonstrate her newfound capabilities, Kendra's metallic arm suddenly projected a holographic map of Nem Me. Fractal lines showed the territories of warring factions, pulsing with tension and unresolved conflict. Her transformation was complete. She was no longer just Kendra Mitchell from Detroit. She was the Metal Queen, a being with the power to potentially save an entire planet. And her journey was just beginning. The chapter ends with Kendra standing amidst the alien landscape, her metallic arm gleaming, robotic eyes scanning the horizon, ready to confront the challenges that await her on Nem Me. Chapter 3. The Journey Begins. The metallic landscape of Nem Me stretched before Kendra like an alien canvas, its jagged terrain punctuated by crystalline rock formations that shimmered with an inner light. Her newly enhanced robotic eyes scanned the horizon, processing information far beyond human perception. Each movement felt simultaneously foreign and natural, her metallic arm humming with potential energy. "The first step is always the most difficult," the Indignity said, his weathered form moving alongside her. Unlike the humanoid inhabitants she'd glimpsed in the distance, he appeared more like a living shadow, shifting and translucent, with eyes that held millennia of wisdom. Kendra flexed her metallic fingers, feeling the intricate network of technological sinews respond to her slightest thought. "How do I even begin to unite a planet torn apart by civil war?" she asked, her voice a mixture of Detroit grit and newfound resolve. The Indignity pointed toward a distant range where storm clouds churned with unnatural intensity. "There, Varric's territory. The Stormbringer will be your first test. He represents destruction, constant change that threatens to tear the planet's fabric apart." As they approached, the atmosphere grew charged. Electromagnetic pulses rippled through the air, and Kendra's robotic systems began calibrating, hers creating protective shields around her organic components. The landscape transformed, rocks trembled, winds twisted into impossible geometric patterns, and the very ground seemed to pulse with anticipation. Varric emerged not as a traditional god, but as a living manifestation of atmospheric chaos. Lightning danced around his form, his body composed of swirling winds and electrical currents. Where he stepped, the ground scorched and reformed. The prophecy speaks. Varric's voice was a thunderous whisper, but prophecies can be rewritten. Kendra stood her ground. Her experiences in Detroit's community center had taught her that true change came from understanding, not confrontation. "I'm not here to replace your power," she responded, her metallic arm subtly scanning potential defensive and offensive capabilities. "I'm here to help everyone find balance." The Stormbringer laughed, a sound like distant thunder. "Balance? This planet knows only conflict. The 4 Artons have maintained our domains through perpetual struggle. What makes you think a transplanted human can change centuries of existence?" The Indignity stepped forward. "She is more than human now. She is the convergence point, the technology and spirit that can bridge what has been broken." Varric's storm form flickered, revealing momentary curiosity. His electrical tendrils probed Kendra's technological enhancements, testing her defenses. She remained calm, allowing the scan while maintaining her mental barriers. "The other Artons will not be as receptive," Varric warned. "Nexus will attempt to manipulate your reality. Kral will challenge your very foundation. And Mera—" He paused, a rare moment of genuine concern crossing his elemental features. "Mera will seek to shatter your mind before you can even begin." Kendra understood the stakes. This wasn't just about uniting factions. This was about preventing total planetary destruction. Her Detroit street-smart instincts merged with her new technological awareness, creating a unique strategic perspective. "Then I'll meet each challenge as it comes," she declared. "Not with force, but with understanding." As the first leg of her journey began, Kendra knew the path ahead was fraught with complexity. The warring factions of Nem Me weren't just external conflicts. They represented deeper philosophical and existential divisions that would require more than technological intervention. The Indignity watched her, a slight smile crossing his translucent features. Varric's storm began to recede, leaving behind an electric tension, a silent acknowledgement that something fundamental was about to change. Kendra took her first deliberate step forward, her metallic arm humming with potential, her robotic eyes scanning the infinite possibilities of a world on the brink of transformation. The journey to unite Nem Me had truly begun. Chapter 4. Challenges and Obstacles. The metallic landscape of Nem Me stretched before Kendra like a labyrinth of fractured alliances and hidden dangers. Her robotic eye scanned the horizon, processing electromagnetic signatures and molecular structures with precision that still felt alien to her human consciousness. The Indignity walked beside her, a silent guardian whose weathered form seemed to absorb the tension crackling in the air. "Nexus will not be as straightforward as Varric," the Indignity warned, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the metallic ground. "The Void Walker sees realities most cannot comprehend. Her power to manipulate perception is more dangerous than any physical threat." Kendra flexed her metallic arm, feeling the intricate network of circuits and adaptive technology that now formed part of her being. Her experiences in Detroit working with troubled youth had taught her about complex systems of conflict, but nothing could have prepared her for the intricate political landscape of Nem Me. As they approached the first territorial boundary, the landscape began to shift. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend, creating impossible geometric shapes that flickered in and out of existence. Nexus was announcing her presence long before any physical encounter. "The factions here are not like street gangs or urban conflicts," the Indignity explained. "Each group believes their version of reality is the only truth. Nexus embodies that philosophical division. She can make people believe entirely different versions of the same moment." A shimmer appeared before them, first translucent, then gradually solidifying into the form of a woman composed of shifting light and shadow. Nexus stood before them, her form constantly changing, edges blurring and reforming with each breath. The Metal Queen, Nexus spoke, her voice echoing from multiple directions simultaneously. A human transplant meant to solve centuries of conflict. How? Quaint. Kendra recognized the challenge. This wasn't just a physical confrontation, but a psychological battle. Her robotic eye analyzed Nexus's energy signatures, detecting multiple quantum probability streams emanating from her form. "I'm not here to impose a solution," Kendra responded carefully. "I'm here to understand. Each faction has a perspective that needs to be heard." Nexus laughed, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Perspective? On this planet, perspective is a weapon more deadly than any physical force. To demonstrate, Nexus created multiple simultaneous realities around them. In one version, Kendra saw herself failing catastrophically. In another, she witnessed a peaceful resolution. In yet another, total planetary destruction played out in vivid detail. "Which reality will you choose?" Nexus challenged. The indignity remained still, watching Kendra's response. This was a crucial test, not of her technological enhancements, but of her fundamental understanding of unity. Kendra closed her human eye, allowing her robotic eye to process the multiple realities. She understood now that the solution wasn't about selecting one reality, but finding the connective tissue between them. "None of these are absolute," she said firmly. "They're all possibilities. The truth lies in understanding each perspective without being consumed by it." Nexus's form flickered, momentarily destabilized by Kendra's response. The Voidwalker hadn't expected philosophical resistance. As the confrontation reached its peak, Kendra became aware of Kral, the mountain shaper, observing from a distant geological formation. His presence added another layer of complexity to an already intricate scenario. The chapter concluded with Kendra standing resolute, having navigated her first major psychological battlefield. She had not conquered Nexus, but she had demonstrated a profound understanding that would be crucial in her mission to unite Nem Me. The metallic landscape around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what the Metal Queen would do next. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. The metallic landscape of Nem Me trembled with anticipation as Kendra approached the domain of Mera, the Mindbreaker. The air crackled with psychic energy, a tangible tension that threatened to shatter reality itself. The indignity remained close, his presence a subtle anchor in the increasingly volatile environment. Mera's sanctum was unlike anything Kendra had encountered before. A crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with consciousness, its walls shifting and breathing like a living organism. Her robotic eyes scanned the environment, processing multiple layers of reality simultaneously. The metallic arm that had become an extension of her being hummed with potential energy, ready to respond to the slightest threat. "You've come far, Metal Queen," a voice whispered directly into Kendra's mind, each word a razor-sharp blade of psychological assault. Mera materialized before her, a being of pure mental energy, her form constantly shifting between human and abstract shapes. Kendra stood her ground. The lessons from her encounters with Varric and Nexus had prepared her for this moment. She understood now that this was more than a physical battle. It was a war of perception, of will, of fundamental understanding. "I'm here to unite Nem Me," Kendra responded, her mental defenses strong and unwavering. "The prophecy isn't about destruction, it's about connection." Mera laughed, a sound that fractured reality around them. Psychic tendrils began to probe Kendra's consciousness, seeking vulnerabilities. "Prophecies are weapons of the weak," the Mindbreaker declared. "I can see every possibility, every potential outcome of your existence. You are nothing but a temporary disruption." The battle began not with physical combat, but with a psychological assault. Mera unleashed a barrage of mental projections, alternate realities where Kendra failed, where Nem Me burned, where her mission ended in complete destruction. Each vision was more horrifying than the last, designed to break her spirit. But Kendra had learned from Nexus. She understood that multiple realities could coexist, that perception was fluid. Instead of fighting the visions, she began to understand them. Her robotic eyes analyzed each projection, finding connections, seeing the underlying patterns of conflict and resolution. "You think showing me failure will break me?" Kendra challenged. "Every possibility teaches something. Every potential outcome carries wisdom." Her metallic arm began to resonate, generating a counter-frequency that disrupted Mera's psychic attacks. The indignity had taught her that technology and spirit were not opposing forces, but complementary energies. The sanctum around them began to destabilize. Reality itself seemed uncertain, wavering between multiple states of existence. Mara's most powerful weapon, the ability to shatter sanity, was being challenged by Kendra's unique perspective. The prophecy spoke of a bridge, Kendra said, her voice cutting through the psychological noise. Not a warrior, not a destroyer, a connector. A crucial revelation emerged. The Metal Queen wasn't meant to defeat the Artons, but to help them understand each other. Mara's attacks began to lose their intensity as Kendra's perspective started to penetrate her defenses. In a moment of unexpected vulnerability, Mara's true motivation became clear. The Mindbreaker wasn't simply a destructive force, but a being trapped by the weight of infinite possibilities, unable to find a path forward. "You're as imprisoned by your power as the factions are by their conflicts," Kendra realized aloud. The sanctum trembled. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Kendra extended her metallic hand, not as a weapon, but as an invitation. A moment of connection that would change everything. The chapter concluded with a profound sense of transformation. The battle was not about victory, but understanding, and in that understanding lay the true power of the Metal Queen's prophecy. Chapter 6. The Resolution. The metallic landscape of Nem Me shimmered with an unprecedented calm, a stark contrast to the decades of conflict that had torn the planet apart. Kendra stood at the precipice of a crystalline plateau, her robotic eyes scanning the horizon where the 4 territories of the Artons once stood divided. Her metallic arm, now an integral part of her being, reflected the soft light of Nem Me's twin suns. The resolution she had achieved was not a product of force, but of understanding. Her confrontation with Mara, the Mindbreaker, had been the final crucible that transformed the planet's potential for destruction into a blueprint for unity. The prophecy of the Metal Queen was never about conquering, but about connecting, a truth Kendra had learned through her journey. The Indignity approached her, his form a blend of organic matter and technological augmentation that symbolized the very essence of Nem Me's potential. "You have done what generations believed impossible," he said, his voice a melodic combination of wisdom and wonder. Kendra turned, her robotic eyes flickering with an intricate pattern of light that now represented her emotional state. It wasn't about defeating them, she reflected, but about helping them see each other's perspectives. The aftermath of her confrontation with the Artons had been profound. Varric, the Stormbringer, who once represented pure chaos, now understood the value of controlled change. Nexus, the Voidwalker, whose reality manipulations had been a tool of division, now saw how perception could be a bridge rather than a barrier. Kral, the Mountain Shaper, whose geological powers had been used to create impenetrable boundaries, now used his abilities to create shared spaces of collaboration. But it was her encounter with Mara that had been the most transformative. By refusing to break under the Mindbreaker's psychological attacks, and instead offering understanding, Kendra had shattered the cycle of conflict that had defined Nem Me for centuries. The planet's factions, once locked in a perpetual state of civil war, were now negotiating. Representatives from each territory sat around circular platforms that the Indignity had helped design, spaces where no one could claim a position of superiority, where dialogue was the only weapon. "The technology we've integrated," the Indignity explained, pointing to the communication networks now linking the different regions, "allows for unprecedented transparency. No faction can hide its intentions anymore." Kendra's transformation was more than physical. Her Detroit roots, her experience working with at-risk youth, her belief in second chances had been the true catalyst. She understood that conflict arose from fear, misunderstanding, and a lack of genuine communication. As the day progressed, she watched as the first interterritorial council began. Representatives from regions that had been enemies for generations now spoke, their discussions mediated by technological interfaces that translated not just words but emotional subtexts. Her metallic arm, once a symbol of her otherworldliness, now represented the potential for integration, of technology, of perspectives, of beings. The robotic enhancements were not a replacement of her humanity, but an amplification of her core values. "What comes next?" Kendra asked the Indignity, her voice a mixture of human uncertainty and technological precision. "Healing," he responded. "Rebuilding. Understanding that unity is not the absence of difference, but the celebration of it." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the transformed landscape, Kendra felt a sense of completion. She was no longer just from Detroit, no longer just the metal queen of Nem Me. She was a bridge between worlds, between technologies, between beings. The prophecy was fulfilled, not through conquest, but through connection. In the distance, the first collaborative infrastructure project began, a network of communication towers that would link the previously isolated territories. Each tower was a testament to possibility, to the idea that division was a choice, and unity was always within reach. Kendra looked out over Nem Me, her metallic form a beacon of hope, her human spirit the true source of transformation. A new chapter was beginning.